What happens when we face our fears and connect with others? That's the ride of my life. So, what inspired me to write The Ride of My Life? And what did I learn from this experience? I've spent most of my life as a teacher, and what I've learned is that we grow through stories, conversations, and the courage to try something new. Every life has moments that quietly, or not so quietly, shape who we become. Today, I'd like to shine a light on a few of those moments in my own life and how I found myself on that roller coaster. My intention here is that while sharing my story, I also give you, the listener, something to reflect on and consider. Is there something in your life right now that might be waiting just on the other side of fear? That's a question you may ponder. And if so, you're in the right place. So let's jump in and begin. It all started with love. Aw. While living in Montreal, I met a Dutchman from Amsterdam in the Netherlands who worked for KLM, the Royal Dutch Airlines, and we fell in love. We agreed to have a long distance relationship. Fast forward, there are wedding bells, and then a surprise. We are pregnant. Yay! Wonderful news. But we were hoping to decide on a country to live in together first. And here comes the first big decision. Yes, I'll move to the Netherlands. Why not? So many new things were happening all at once, but why not just add another one? I thought. Yes, I was afraid, wondering, doubting, is this the right decision? I would learn a new language, Dutch, which honestly became one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I would become a first time mom, begin married life, and start an entirely new European lifestyle. Am I brave or just crazy? A very good question indeed. I was 7 months pregnant when I boarded the KLM flight from Montreal to Amsterdam. Excited, scared, nervous, happy, butterflies in my stomach, all of the above. I made a deal with my husband that he would remain working for KLM and we would travel back to Canada every year. And if not before retirement, then certainly at that point we would move back to Canada. And he agreed. Looking back, he kept his side of the deal. We returned every single year. And in those earlier years, because I was homesick, I sometimes returned multiple times in a year. And the only year we missed in the 28 years living in the Netherlands was in 2019 during COVID. Nobody was flying. There were moments when the homesickness would hit me unexpectedly. Sometimes it was hearing familiar music, sometimes it was the smell of certain foods, and sometimes it was simply hearing Canadian voices or laughter that reminded me of home. I miss the comfort of familiarity. The people who knew me without explanation, the ease of belonging somewhere without having to work so hard at it. And becoming a new mother while adjusting to a completely different culture sometimes felt overwhelming. There were days I questioned myself deeply, days where I wondered, what have I done? But looking back now, I realize something important. Growth and discomfort often arrive together. So, yes, that moment of fear was very real. Why didn't it stop me? Well, I felt secure knowing I could see my Canadian family and friends, and that mattered deeply to me. But I think something else mattered too. I had grown up believing that I was important, that I mattered, and my mom used to tell me, you can do anything you put your mind to. Such wise words. Thank you, Mom, even now. So while I had confidence in myself, I also believed something important. I could learn. I could learn how to be a mother, whether in Canada or in the Netherlands. I could learn to make new friends. I could learn a new language, or so I thought. I could adapt to a different culture and customs. Learning Dutch humbled me in ways I never expected. And suddenly I felt like a child again, searching for words, making mistakes, trying to understand conversations around me. Oh, There's something very vulnerable about not being able to fully express who you are. But perhaps that experience also made me more compassionate, more patient, more understanding of what it feels like to be new. And now looking back, maybe I was just a little overconfident. You think? Because it was tough. It was really tough at times. And there were moments I questioned what I had done, but I didn't give up. And every time I returned home to Canada and received that unconditional love and support from family and friends, I felt refueled and better equipped to continue on my journey. And something surprising happened over time. I was adapting, making friends, beginning to enjoy the traditions and rhythms of my new life. It no longer felt only frightening. It also felt exciting, new, expanding. One woman I met became crucial in helping me pivot into another important chapter of my life, education. And that story I'll save for part 2 of this podcast. But there was another friendship that taught me something equally important. She too was a foreigner living in the Netherlands, and sometimes she struggled to feel connected or like she truly belonged. At first, it actually felt comforting to have someone who understands exactly the struggles of being a foreigner. We shared our frustrations, we vented, and for a while it felt validating. Slowly, I noticed something. The more negativity I surrounded myself with, the more negativity I began to see everywhere. And that realization was uncomfortable because it meant I had a choice to make. Did I want to continue feeding this frustration, or did I want to intentionally look for joy, connection, gratitude, possibility? And that was a turning point for me. She even called me Pollyanna because I was always trying to look on the bright side. But after our visits, I noticed something. I felt drained, heavy, less hopeful. And then one day I realized something important. I control the narrative. I decided to uh, see how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to live, and who I wanted to be. That realization changed me. So I reduced our visits, and when we did meet, I intentionally focused on embracing the good and beautiful things around me. That was a major learning moment in my life. Perhaps something similar has happened to you. Maybe self doubt showed up. Maybe fear arrived first. Maybe you questioned yourself. Fear has an interesting way of showing up in our lives, sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly, sometimes disguised as doubt or hesitation or excuses. But often on the other side of fear, there is growth we never have imagined otherwise. Not perfect growth, not easy growth, meaningful growth. And when we allow ourselves to connect with others during these moments, we realize we are far less alone than we thought. So important. And if that happens, take a moment. And if it feels right, pivot. Trust yourself. Follow your heart. My hope for you today is simply this, that something in this story inspires you to become a happier, wiser, more connected version of yourself. Or perhaps simply gives you something to reflect on. Food for thought, as we say. Because when we share our stories and reach out to others, that fear can become the spark that lights our way forward. Thank you for spending this time with me today. It truly means so much, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Until we meet again, keep your light shining on what makes you glow and grow. I'm Joanna Fairfat, and I'm so happy you were here today.